you are the light, I am the light, we are all light. Everybody here, all beings on the earth, all sentient beings are basically transmitters of light. It all comes from one source. Listen, the problem with our ego consciousness is we think it is, it's picked and chosen for different people. It's not. It all comes through us from one thing. So think about it, it's like being plugged into one electrical outlet. There's not different sources of light, there's one source of light. Now sometimes that can feel not true because different people emit light in different ways. Some are absolutely open and in it all the time, and like all of us, sometimes on a daily basis, you have variances where it's very open and it's shut down. So here's an audio visual to help you understand that it all comes from one source. So if you're looking at, I can't turn off those lights because they're on that system, but if you're just looking at the lights up here, look, one source, all these lights, okay? Now if we turn them off, what? We are bathed in darkness, okay? But the darkness isn't on a separate channel. It all comes from one source. So here we are, all of a sudden we're in the darkness, and here's the light. What happens? All darkness is gone. So why is it that when things get dark, meaning we get into our shadow parts of ourselves, we disconnect or don't believe that we are that they're two separate things? They're not. Of course I've lectured on maybe different ideas of this throughout, so much of my philosophy is about these kind of principles. But I had an insight about this because when I was teaching, before London, I was at David Lynch's school, which they're remaking Twin Peaks. Did you know that? I didn't even know that. Mm-hmm. Their Showtime is doing, and he's directed. He's directed already 6 episodes. So I'm the guest teacher at David Lynch's school in Iowa, and when I was working with the master film class there, just helping, they're all masters in film, and so I'm helping them learn how to work with actors. And the faculty would come up to me on a break one day, and they're like, do you know what it is that you're doing? And I was like, no. They're like, you do shadow work. I was like, oh, I love that. What is that? Because I have no idea what these things are that I just do. I'm just trying to do it. And I was like, well, I'm going to look that up. And so sure enough, I looked it up, and I was like, oh my God, this is so apropos to what I'm talking about. So basically, shadow work, or shadow selves, is a concept and an understanding that Carl Jung came up with, where as children, we have shadow parts of ourselves that are basically energetic tendencies that we use as survival mechanisms. We need them to get through life. But what happens is we outgrow them and we go underground with them, they become unconscious, and as we move through life, we get triggered, as we all do, and the shadow part gets triggered, and we live in that place. The interesting thing think about the definition of shadow. So if there's a car on, okay, so basically the definition of shadow, if there is a light source and there is an object in front of the light, then the object casts a shadow, right? But what's so fascinating about it is, so if I'm walking on Melrose here and there's a car and the sun is hitting the car, then I'm going to walk into shadow. But that's not, at one level it's felt literally, but it's also figurative. Because what happens? If you move the car, what happens? You're bathed in light. In fact, while the car is there, actually light isn't just behind the car. It's above the car, it's behind the car, it's above it, it's below it, it's all around it. We just identify with what? The shadow, because that feels real. Move the car, it's all light. Aha! See, it's analogous to, it's one source all the time. Now, shadows occur. But look, when shadows occur, it doesn't mean I'm still not light. It just means now I'm being the light is being masked by that which feels real. Well, why does it feel real? It only comes from one place, and this is all an inside job, as hard as it can be. It all comes from your thoughts and core beliefs. Bam! So we start to change the thoughts, and you change the core beliefs, and slowly, eventually, you'll have a lot less shadow in your life. Now, there's nothing wrong with shadow. Shadow is needed to move to the light. The challenge with life is we get stuck in the self-talk that makes us feel shameful about the shadow parts. You guys, just think about it. You feel you're stupid or fat or ugly, you're fucked up, you're evil, you're messy, you're unlovable, you're not deserving, you're not good enough. Sound familiar? Welcome to being human. That's shadow. That's not true. But you take that on as true and it masks you from light. So the work is just in life, how do we become better channels for light? Radiate it more, emanate it more, allow it more, be a greater receptacle of it, which you all are anyway. Some days, if this is a cylinder, sometimes it's just closed off, and then sometimes it opens fully. So the work is how do we allow more of that in all the time? As you get triggered in life, as you get upset, as you're challenged, as things occur not the way you want them to occur, but the way they are, how do you just keep allowing that which is really real, your light, which is energy, which is frequency, which is flow, these are good words, which is pure positive energy, that's the real essence of who you are. I just want to end with this because when I first lectured on this is what I've lectured in all the master classes. So when I first lectured on it, I was like, oh lordy, well, why is it so hard to I think everybody understands what I'm talking about. And then I thought, well, why is it so hard to just step into our light? Well, duh, think about it. If you've been conditioned to believe the stories of shadows that you've been using for a long time, 10 years, 20 years, 12 years, 15 years, 30 years, 40 years, they don't ever fully go away. But you make those things your truth. It's very difficult to see yourself for who you really are. And because you tell yourself those things, those are the things you believe. That, even though, this is what's so weird about it, it's like a cosmic joke. Even though those things, ultimately, when you're thinking them and you believe them, they don't make you feel good about yourself. It's easier to feel those things because you're familiar with those things. I'm a fuck up, I'm a loser, I'm an asshole, I'm a bitch, I'm stupid, it's never going to happen for me. Doesn't feel good to feel them, but because you tell yourself all the time that it's familiar. That's easier than what? Whoa! I am the light, I am divinity, I am source, I am brilliance, I am magnificence, I am perfection. Aha! That's hard to step into. The last point is, I went to go see Izzy because she just had her baby. Yeah, 2 months old. And I thought, oh my God, when I saw that child, I thought, this is the challenge of just being human, which is, you guys, not only just from an individual standpoint, but culturally and socially, we're already pitched into the universe, already being told that we're not light. Remember this? We are all sin. We all come from sin. No, I'm sorry, we do not. You are not. The physics of it disprove that. You are all pure radiant light. It's physics, you are. Take away the shadow, you are all light from one source. I look at that baby, there's nothing but light in that child. He's not born of sin. He's light. He's atomic stardust. That's what he is. Now, the trick is, as he develops and he moves forward in life, and he hears things and he creates narratives and stories based on what people tell him, adults, then you start to create shadows. Sin. Actually, sin comes from the Latin, ooh, this is so good, which really, the literal word for sin used to mean missing the mark. It was an archery term. So if you're sinning, it just means you're missing the bullseye. You're missing the mark. Doesn't mean you're sinful. Doesn't mean you're evil. Doesn't mean you're bad. Doesn't mean, it just means you missed the mark. Try again. That's shadow. Remove the shadow, then you're in perfection. That's what I want you to think about this Christmas. Isn't Christmas... Oh, what's so funny? What did I do? Isn't Christmas all about light, isn't it? Isn't every advertisement about share the light, Christmas lights? It's all about light. Well, why do we only have it for 25 days a year? You are it all the time. You are born into it. You will depart the planet from it, in it, whether you're conscious of it or not. We just got to become a little bit more conscious of it. God. Imagine how powerful we all would be if we just lived life a little bit more from, I am that. Because you are.